evening. When I wandered down memory lane in preparation for tonight, I stopped at the potholes and I examined the detours and I remembered some of the speeding tickets I got. But I kept coming back to one simple intersection where I had failed to obey a sign to yield. It was 1988, and I had just landed my first big contract with a general hospital. Now back then, there was no regionalization. Every hospital ran its own show. There was no email. There was no voice messaging. There were no cell phones. We communicated with one another via memos. And we put the memos into brown, reusable envelopes. And Ruby, the mail lady, dropped them off twice a day. It was a slower time. Now, I was trying to get the hospital kind of worked up through the employee newsletter by profiling different employees in different departments. And you know, the managers were not really sure about this new communication stuff, so they were a little nervous. So I always let the manager read the story before it went to print. And that was working really well for me, until I interviewed a nurse who was beautifully opinionated. And when her manager read the story that I wrote, she panicked. And she ran to the director of nursing, who took her red pen and rewrote all of the quotes in the story and sent the copy back to me. Now, the nurse hadn't said anything damaging or defamatory. She was telling her truth in her own words. And it would have been unethical for me to change them. So I put a call in to the director of nursing, who of course wasn't available. She would have gotten one of those pink slips on her desk. And I used the original story. I left her a message. And then Ruby, the mail lady, dropped that story off all over the hospital once the newsletters were delivered from the printer. It took no time at all for the call to come from the CEO's office. And when I got down there, the offending newsletter was sitting precisely in the center of his desk. There was nothing else on it. And he explained to me that he had just had a visit from an apoplectic director of nursing who demanded to know, whose newsletter is this anyway? Now, if I had taken a moment to think, the story probably wouldn't have ended this way. But I had a visceral reaction. I said, it's mine. Just like the delivery of nursing care is hers. I said, I don't presume to tell directors how to do their job, and I would hope that they would show me the same consideration. I did explain to him the ethical dilemma in there. Anyway, he thought about it for a while, and then he thanked me, and he and I never spoke of it again. But as these things sometimes happen, the story got around. And then some funny things happened. The managers started to take me seriously. The employees trusted me. And more people read that newsletter. I stood my ground, and nothing bad happened. Now, I'm glad I learned that lesson in 1988, because over the years, I've come to the conclusion that the ratio is actually 10 to 1. For every one of us just trying to do a good job, there are 10 amateurs in the organization trying to tell us how to do it. Now that means if you have a department of 10 people, there are 100 of these folks milling about. And they all want you to yield. Now here's my advice. Get a little visceral with them. Stand your ground. Own your expertise. Because if we aren't confident in what we do, who will be? Thank you.